Hello, this is Karen from Turn Up the Value. Thanks for listening to this presentation, which I put together on behalf of Bolton CVS to give you some tips and tricks for measuring the impact of your organisation. So, impact is a term you've probably heard a lot, sometimes referred to as social impact. But what do we actually mean by that? Really simply put, it's just the difference that you make through the work that you do. It's the change that happens because of your actions. And that change can be in relation to communities, individuals, the effect you have on the local economy, or on the environment. It can be positive or negative. Alongside social impact, you might also hear the term social value. But what's the difference between the two? If the impact is the difference you make through the work that you do, the social value is how valuable that impact is to individuals, communities, and society. You can't have social value without social impact. So, why do you need to measure social impact? Well, it helps you to fully understand the difference you make. And in understanding this, it helps you to stay accountable to the people you serve. So, the beneficiaries who you work for in your communities, but also to your funders, commissioners, and other stakeholders. Once you know how much of an impact you're having in the different areas that you work in, it can help you plan more activities that make the most difference and make a big impact, so you can do more of the stuff that really matters. And you can use these findings to share and celebrate your success. There's some really good examples of impact reports that I'll share later on in this presentation that are used not only to share and celebrate the great stuff that you've done, but also a great marketing tool for your organisation. Next, I want to break down for you the key steps to measuring your impact. The first step is to be clear on what you're measuring the impact of. Is it a discrete project, perhaps one you have funding for, or are you looking to measure the impact of your whole organisation? Being clear on these parameters will help you focus in on and prioritise the data you need to capture. For step 2, make sure you're capturing before and after data. So think about what you can measure before your project or activity begins and how you can evidence the change that you've made by capturing comparative data afterwards. In step 3, you can consider what the data is telling you. Do you need to do some simple analysis to see what's changed? How have the numbers gone up or down? What did people tell you in surveys and questionnaires? How have things changed for them, and what are the outcomes? Step 4 is reporting your findings. Do you have a reporting template you need to fill out for a funder? Or are you looking to share your findings with followers on social media? Whatever the format, it's great to be able to pull your data together in a simple way, which obviously evidences the difference you've made. Measuring social impact can be a little bit daunting when you're first starting out, so I want to give you a few tips that will help it to feel less scary. The first tip is to build on what you already do. As a VCSE organisation, you'll already be collecting lots of information that's going to be really useful as you start to think about measuring impact. Do you keep registers of people who attend your events, activities, or workshops? Do you have a social media account where people record likes and comments about the activities that you do? Do you collect any feedback forms or surveys about the courses that you deliver, for example, or events that you hold? Do you have photos of all the work that you do, or even videos capturing people's comments? All of these can be really, really helpful when it comes to documenting and recording that impact. My next tip is to keep it simple. Remember to think carefully about what data you collect and only collect what you need. Use existing opportunities to collect your data. Are you holding an event or a workshop where your beneficiaries will be present? Can you take this opportunity to conduct some interviews, take some photographs, or distribute some questionnaires? Online questionnaires such as SurveyMonkey and Microsoft and Google Forms can be a really quick and easy way of capturing data. They can be emailed out and will also analyse findings for you in accessible graphs and charts. You can create a link to them as a barcode which people can scan to access the questionnaire straight away. Start collecting impact data as soon as you can and ask as many people as you possibly can, giving yourself the best chance to get a good sample size to really evidence the impact your organisation has had. Finally, remember to store any data that you collect safely and in compliance with GDPR legislation. Bolton CBS will be able to advise you on this further. My third tip is to measure the change. Remember, when you're measuring impact, you're thinking about what people can do now that they couldn't do before. What exists now that didn't before? Make sure you collect that before and after data so that you can see how all those small changes add up to meet your overall goals. Remember to collect quotes and stories as well as the numbers, as those qualitative data types will really supplement the quantitative number-based data that you'll collect too. My fourth tip is to think about which tools you use to capture your impact data. We've already touched on online surveys as a great way of capturing data simply and effectively, but paper surveys can also be useful, especially if your beneficiaries aren't very digitally savvy. Before and after photos are a great way of capturing the impacts of environmental projects such as cleanups, while social media polls on Instagram or Facebook can also be a great way of capturing a snapshot of information. Perhaps you want people to rate how much they've enjoyed an event that you've held, or you could ask people to share comments about what impact the event has had on them. Videos are also a great way of capturing impact data directly from your beneficiaries. You can use your phone to record the beneficiaries telling you all about the difference your project has made to them. My final tip is to think about how you're going to share your findings. What does your funder need to know? Do they have specific questions that need to be answered? Will you write a final report? If so, what will that contain? Will you want to share some of the graphs or infographics from an online questionnaire, or might you need to create your own? Social media can also be a great way of sharing your findings. Perhaps you'll want to create a post or do a blog on LinkedIn. It's also great to prepare a video as an impact report. This is an amazing way to tell your story, include the voices of your stakeholders, and some images and other data that you've captured. However you decide to share your impact findings, it's great to include a case study. But what makes a good case study? It's really important to link case studies back to your original project goals. So thinking about what you want to achieve at the start of your project helps you to write a case study to evidence how you've actually achieved it. You'll want to describe the activities you did to create social impact, describe what happened and who was involved, and most importantly, describe the changes that have happened for those involved. You can supplement your case study with photos and videos and get really creative by telling the story of the impact you've had. We've mentioned a few times the benefits of using questionnaires to collect impact data. But what makes a good questionnaire? It's really important that whatever format you use, be it Google Forms or a paper survey, that you ask the same questions before and after so that you can measure that change. Use multiple choice or scaling questions and allow you to easily analyse your findings. But it's still important to ask people to add their own comments so that people are able to give you more of a fuller picture in their own words. If language is a barrier for your beneficiaries, you can always use emojis or pictures for people to express their feelings. This is a great example of a before and after scaling question. Here, participants are asked to complete the first section of the questionnaire at the start of the session. On a scale of 1 to 10, please tell us how you were feeling an hour ago. And then they are asked to rate their moods on a scale of 1 to 10. A supplementary question asks people to think about why they wanted to take part in those activities. People are then asked to complete part 2 after the activity. On a scale of 1 to 10, please tell us how you are feeling now. If the number increases, then it shows a change that has occurred as a result of the activity. They're then asked to take a moment to think about what they got out of the activity today and what the activities meant to them, giving participants a chance to give you some really good qualitative data. This example is really a really nice way of asking people questions about well-being. The statements down the left-hand side reflect the 5 Ways to Wellbeing programme, which is a nationally recognised programme that helps people to improve their well-being. It's often used by people when they deliver projects. Participants are then asked to rate how much they agree with those statements. If participants strongly agree, then you'll know that you've achieved those outcomes for your participants. Here we have an example of a multiple choice question. Respondents are asked to tick what outcomes they value most about the sessions they have attended. When you analyse the results of this kind of question, you'll be able to see which of these outcomes were most significant for your participants. However you gather your impact data, it's great to be able to capture quotes directly from beneficiaries. Here we have some examples of some great quotes that really evidence the changes that these projects have had on their participants. This is an example of a case study from One Point, the counselling service in Bolton. Jen is the coordinator of their graduate scheme, and she provided a great case study for inclusion in their impact report. This case study really highlights some of the outcomes of this project and is direct from one of the staff, so it's a great example of how a case study can highlight impact. Finally, you can watch this example of how a video can evidence impact from the Woodland Trust. This video features interviews with participants of this Tranquility project and really helps to bring the outcomes of the project to life. You can click on these links to find some examples of impact reports from various different organisations of different sizes. Some of them are much more detailed than others, but hopefully you can see how outputs, outcomes and impacts are all brought together here to give an overall picture of the impacts of a project or an organisation. Lastly, I just wanted to give you a final pointer about getting in the habit of collecting your data regularly and systematically. If you do this, then it's there for you when you need to use that data to apply for funding or report on activities. It can also help you plan your activities because you'll know where you're making the most difference and you can do more of that really good stuff. It can help you with your funding strategy so you know which funders to target for the activities that are making the most difference. And it's great for marketing and communication, spreading the word about the amazing work you do. Good luck, and remember you can always get in touch with me, Karen, at Turn Up the Value if you have any further questions.